made it even more so. Paddy O'Rourke captained his native Down to All-Ireland success in 1991 and added a second medal 3 years later. But last night he arrived in Newry as manager of Armagh, and facing him on the sidelines was his teammate from those years, James McCartan. It's little exaggeration to say that the home side exploded from the blocks. There was barely 30 seconds gone when they were a goal to the good, Benny Coulter taking full advantage of a defensive mix-up. And Down didn't stop there. Coulter added another point, and with further scores from Martin Clark, Mark Poland and Ambrose Rogers, they were all of 8 points ahead with just 8 minutes gone. Armagh did eventually reply, although they needed a penalty to spark their fight back. A foul by Dan McCartan on Stephen Forker allowed Stephen MacDonald to cut the gap before Finian Moriarty helped cut it further. John Clark did stem the Armagh tide somewhat with a fine score on 22 minutes, but a quick response from MacDonald and Gareth Swift meant Down's advantage was down to 2 as half-time approached. The home side weren't helped by an injury to Martin Clark, but the Orchard men would suffer a bigger blow just before the break. A second yellow card for Moriarty meant they'd played the entire second half with just 14 men. John Clark's free left them trailing by 3 points. MacDonald did get the first point of the second half, but Down were about to enjoy another period of scoring dominance. There were plenty of chances squandered by both sides, but McCartan's men still managed to post 6 points without reply. Conor McGinn, Rogers, Poland and Dan Hughes were all on target before Swift finally ended what was a 32-minute wait for another Armagh score. It was the final one of the game. A 7-point winning margin for Down means McCartan has the bragging rights over his fellow Burren man. He'll probably be far more interested in the 2 league points that moves his county ever closer to promotion to Division 1. Down winners in Park Esler by 1 goal and 13 points to Armagh's 1-6.
So that win for Down, maintaining their clear lead at the top of the Division 2 table. Anthony, Down actually going quite well at the moment, playing some nice football. Yeah,
they're going well, Michael. A bit of swagger that we always associate with Down football was certainly in evidence last night. In Newry, you had 15,000 people. It was great spectacle last night, and there's an air of anticipation now again in Down football, and a lot of it has been because of Martin Clark's return from Australia, and they lost him after 20 minutes last night, but it didn't seem to affect the performance. They were very, very good value for their win last night. Armagh, their attack didn't function at all, far too reliant on Stephen MacDonald. OK, a bit of mitigation with the sending off of Finian Moriarty and the injury to Kieran McKeever, but nevertheless a very, very comprehensive win for Down, and they're looking very, very strong at this moment.
Oh, they are, yeah. Let's come on to the Division 1 clash that we saw a little bit earlier there, Cork and Dublin. Both teams obviously going well so far in the league. Dublin unbeaten up to that point. Both of them couldn't win, obviously, so something had to give.
Something had to give, and it was Dublin that gave and gave in style last night. Yes. They didn't offer much by way of resistance at all. Cork were way superior to them. I suppose the concern, it's probably not a bad thing for Dublin to get a defeat, because everything has been so rosy for them in this National League, and when you're going like that, it's difficult for Pat Gilroy to make changes to the team, and there's players that he needs to bring in to strengthen that Dublin side. Last night they've adopted a very, very defensive strategy throughout the league. It's worked for them to date, but last night, even when they were chasing the game 6-7 points behind, they still had 13 men behind the ball. They insisted on kicking all of their kick-outs short. When you had Eamon Fennell, who's probably been the best midfielder in the league this year, and Ross McConnell more than capable of winning his own ball beside him, out the pitch, not starved of possession, and then they up taking both midfielders off. So I think it's been a blessing in disguise for Dublin, and a reality check for Cork. They just keep going from strength to strength. They unveiled the latest great thing in Cork last night, a young lad, Kieran Sheehan. I don't know where they've been hiding him, but what a player. Brilliant last night. Came in full forward. Nicholas Murphy had a hamstring injury, and he was just a joy to watch him last night. So Cork, everything's looking good for Cork in 2010. Dubs, a wee bit of work to do.
OK, right. This point, let's recap on all of the scorelines then from the weekend's Alliance National Football League. In Division 1, Cork getting that win over Dublin last night. Galway collecting the points in Tuam. Monaghan with the victory in Scottstown over Derry. And another very good win for Mayo, this time down in Tralee. But now a look at the Division 1 table. Anthony, your own county not looking great there, I'm afraid.
I'll just ignore the end of the table for now. No, the table is starting to take shape. You'd imagine it's going to be 2 from those top 3. Looking at the fixtures, I imagine Cork will qualify, and one of the others joining them. At the other end, Derry struggling, and look at Cork coming up next, away to Galway in their last game, so they're going to struggle to stay up. Tyrone may get another win. They have 2 tough games. Monaghan on the road for their last two. They're away to Mayo and then away to Kerry. So while they had a good win today, they may struggle as well to stay in the division.
Okay, these were the scorelines then in Division 2. Down, as we saw, winning last night in Newry. Then Meath with a 1-point win over Laois in Navan yesterday evening. Donegal had to work hard for their win over Tipperary down in Thurles. And Kildare put in a very strong finish in Newbridge to leave Westmeath disappointed there. And so the table then, as it now stands in that division, Anthony.
Aye, and Down obviously look as if the division sewing up. They've got Westmeath to play as well, so they're almost certainly going to top the division and get promoted, which is probably more important.
Unfortunately, they can't buy a win at the moment.
No, Westmeath have had a terrible league, certain to be relegated. Tipperary is not far behind them. There's a bunch of teams there in and around six points, and it's really whoever really wants to get into the division, Division 1, should come through there. There's just too many. There's games they have to play each other, and that to be decided.
Yeah.
Too early to predict. Donegal have 2 home games, but they're tough games. So remains to be seen who'll join Down in Division 1 next year. OK, now moving on to Division 3. Wexford with a 1-goal win over Fermanagh. Offaly single-point winners against Antrim. A win for Roscommon over Louth, and Sligo with a win over Cavan. And despite their defeat, Antrim still lead the division there. And the scorelines from Division 4. A good win for Leitrim over London. Longford beat Kilkenny. Wicklow and Limerick finished in a draw down in Ockram, and Clare beating Carlow at Cusack Park, and that keeps Clare out in front in the division. Wicklow are second. And that's our cue for another commercial break here on Sunday Sport. Now, when we come back, we'll be turning our attention to hurling. This afternoon's meeting of Cork and Waterford at Walsh Park. We'll see you again shortly. You're welcome back to part 3 of Sunday Sport. Now, Paul Flynn is here with me in studio and ready to give his views on today's Division 1 clash between his native county and Cork at Walsh Park in Waterford. Now, Cork had been setting the pace in this division, but Waterford still very much in the mix for a good finish to the campaign. The commentator on this one is Marty Morrisey.
The Daishies have been rather inconsistent in the league so far, but today's Walsh Park test will assess exactly where they are. Tomas Ryan is a late change at top of the left, in an attack that will depend on the scoring touches of Owen McGrath and Shane Walsh. Owen Kelly partners Richie Foley at centre field, while Shane O'Sullivan slots into the number 6 jersey for the injured Michael Brick Walsh. Cork goalkeeper Anthony Nash was under the impression Owen Cadigan was going to be his full-back today, but instead it's Ronan Curran. Or indeed, will it be somebody else? The second change is at left corner forward, where Pat Horgan gets his chance for the not feeling so well Paddy O'Sullivan. There are a few talking points, like Sean O'Halpine named at left corner back, John Gardner at midfield, while Cian McCarthy, son of the legendary Teddy, starts at centre forward for the first time. The man in charge is Johnny Ryan from County Tipperary, in a clash that's always entertaining, always exciting. First puck of the slither is for a Corkman, that's John Gardner, and that ball is warned. Easily cut out here by Shane O'Neill, who's been promoted from cornerback to wing-back. Bishopstown lad from the south side of Cork City. Cork playing with the aid of a very strong breeze in this first half, and they're also having the advantage of the sun to their backs. Interesting to see how Mark O'Brien copes with the hurling talents of Michael Cusson, the familiar style and poise of Ben O'Connor. And the result is nearly always the same. Opening score to Cork. Swirling breeze, very much a factor here. And Waterford, against the wind, have decided to play it short. Far as Mark O'Brien runs on for Owen Kelly, hits it onto the left-hand side, and the white flag is going to be raised. Former Mount Sign, now Passage Star, hitting that smack over the crossbar. Good score. Niall McCarthy with that familiar green and white helmet went off the hands of Cian McCarthy. Runs on to Kevin Moran. We're more used to seeing him at centre-back or wing-back for either his club De La Salle or Waterford. This is Sean O'Halpine. wearing number 4. This is a good effort that is going straight over the black spot. Well worked by Pat Horgan and well taken. Over to the far over side, chasing after Sean O'Halpine. Getting there first is Owen McGrath. Challenging Ben O'Connor. O'Halpine to Ben. To Ronan Kerr. Familiar names, big names in Cork hurling over the last 10 years. Getting it down to a newcomer, Michael Cushion. Leaves it, then goes to try and gather it here. Hits the deck, picked up by Noel Connors, an emerging star. Dispossessed here by Pat Horgan. Connors without a hurl.